Welcome, everyone, to Fanboy Frenzy, the only podcast on the internet that had women screaming, yes, 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 way before Daniel Bryan. I am your host, Ryan Jarvis, and I want to give you just a few of my initial thoughts and kind of an overview, or review, if you will, for NXT Takeover Dallas this past Friday and tonight's WrestleMania 32. And I got to tell you, I actually thought both shows were fantastic. I'm going to start off with NXT Takeover. No BS, I thought that going into that show, I was more excited this weekend for TakeOver than I was WrestleMania because NXT tends to do a hell of a lot better job of building up their matches and making them feel special, whether it's their promo packages that they do or whether it's just the way that they allow the talent to actually perform and wrestle at their level. Whatever it is, I just felt like the NXT shows tend to bring the action. They tend to be more entertaining sport versus sports entertainment. And that completely did not at all, go underneath my expectations. I mean, it was quite clear that the NXT show was amazing, but WrestleMania was great too, and we will get to that. But starting off with NXT TakeOver, the show began with Jordan and Gable confronting and finally getting a legitimate chance at winning the NXT Tag Team Championships versus the Revival, Dash and Dawson. Now, that match was a hell of a match to start off the show. I was really hoping that Kurt Angle sometime would be able to kind of show up and give that stamp of approval for Jordan and Gable because, as we've all heard before, he actually said that they would make a great world's greatest tag team, kind of this generation. And I think that's a huge accomplishment for those guys. You can clearly see that they're patting themselves from a Kurt Angle, Shelton Benjamin-esque look and wrestling style. But, all in all, the match was a damn good match. I don't want to go into specifics per, every match. I just want to kind of give the highlights that I felt was great, and that match was definitely a highlight. The action was good. The crowd popped for Gable and Jordan just like they always do. The Revival, Dash and Dawson, I actually feel they're a damn good tag team. Definitely kind of reminiscent of the Andersons or, some of those more roughneck tag teams back in the 80s. Hell, man, even Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the head, or what were they called, the Brainbusters, in WWE. They were very similar to them, and I think that the way that the way those teams fight each other, one has more of a brawling style, but they both can wrestle, and I think that's what makes such great matches from those guys. So I really gave that match a huge thumbs up. 2 big wrestling Fanboy Frenzy thumbs up. Followed on to the next match. We actually got to finally see A-Double himself, Austin Aries, a man that I've followed his career for well over 10 years now. I've seen him in TNA back in the day when he used to try to do this Macho Man Randy Savage style gimmick all the way until, seeing him obviously in WWE now. It's really an amazing thing to see. And he had a damn good match with Baron Corbin. He didn't win with his signature 450 or his brain buster, but he did hit his signature corner drop kick. He was able to reverse the end of days and really caught Baron Corbin by surprise. But Baron is a guy that when he finally gets to the main roster, I think there's some big points, big future in the way for Mr. Corbin whenever he does officially hit the main roster. I think that tonight, kind of skipping over to WrestleMania for a minute, he did win the Andre the Giant, the 3rd annual Battle Royal. Cesaro won the first one. Itami last year won the second one. I think 2015 would have been a bigger year for Hideo Itami if Kevin Owens or whatever that angle was they were working out. Of course, that has no closure. We don't even know who injured Itami at this point, or hell, even if Itami's coming back right now. But that just goes to show you that that opportunity can really put you in a good position. But so far, hopefully Baron Corbin will be the first guy to be able to take that opportunity and run with it, because Cesaro's fell flat and Itami's obviously fell flat too. But the match with Austin Aries and Baron Corbin was a good match. Baron's a good hand, and I think, like I said, when he hits that main roster, he's going to do really well. The next match and NXT TakeOver that I'm going to talk about was, obviously, you have to go to Bayley and Asuka. And I'm going to tell you what, I was very excited for that match. That match was a damn good match. Bayley and Asuka really gave it to each other. Asuka ended up going over in the match, with one of her arm submissions. Or no, I'm sorry, it was the chicken wing, or the Asuka lock, they call it, a la Bob Backlund. And the match was a damn good match, man. I really highly encourage you to watch that match if you haven't had that chance. You know, they've been talking about this Diva Revolution for like well over a year now. Those two women in NXT definitely epitomize that. We know Bayley's been there for this entirety. But, you know, Asuka's been owning her craft, you know, over in Japan for many years. And there's a lot of tremendous talents over there as well. So I think both of them being able to hook up on a big stage, basically their equivalent of a WrestleMania, I think they really delivered. They really delivered. And I think Asuka's going to be a great face for the company for a while. And not only in the United States, but in, you know, in Asian markets as well. Because, you know, they're really giving her a legitimate shot. And I think the fans will really stick behind her. Speaking of performers doing well in Asia, Shinsuke Nakamura, or Shinsuke Nakamura, however you want to pronounce it. You know, he finally got his debut against Mr. Sami Zayn. And, you know, the amazing thing about it is that Sami Zayn seems to be the guy that they put in the ring with all these new talents from time to time. And, you know, Sammy ends up always having these damn good matches with these guys. I'm going to tell you what, Nakamura and Zayn tore the house down. I mean, they made it damn hard for Finn Balor and Samoa Joe to get over in their match. I mean, there's no question. I mean, they truly beat the hell out of each other in that match, and it was very aggressive. You know, Nakamura is known for that strong style, they call it, which is a lot of kicks, strikes, you know, suplexes, submissions, very reminiscent of, you know, your Mitsuharu Misawas or your Kenta Kobashis, you know, your legendary Japanese competitors. And you can clearly see that, you know, he's patterned himself from those. But Nakamura has this certain air about him where he almost comes off like he's kind of psychotic, but yet almost effeminate in a way. You know, and you kind of mix in that psychotic with an effeminate type of attitude, and you mix a little late 90s, early 2000s Y2J in there, and you got Nakamura. And the guy's truly talented. You know, I think that he'll be able to be a bigger player in NXT as the days, weeks, and months go by. And I definitely see him vying for the World Heavyweight title, the NXT Championship, you know, when that time comes. But, I mean, all in all, the match was absolutely fantastic. And you know, the way that it built up, Nakamura did eventually win, but he won with one of the most wicked knee shots I've ever seen. I mean, it almost looked like a spinning roundhouse kick, but he hit Sami Zayn so hard with this knee that, I mean, it was lightning fast. And it was a new finisher, or at least a finisher he hasn't really done before very much. So, I mean, it was really devastating. The fans went apeshit when this move got hit. I mean, I did too in my chair. I couldn't believe that he got hit with this maneuver. But, I mean, it knocked Sami Zayn's teeth out, it looked like. But, you know, Nakamura went over. Sami Zayn was able to get the honors from the fans because I assume that's probably Zayn's last match. That's probably his send-off match. Because, you know, generally in those situations, you want to leave on your back. Neville did the same thing. You know, Kevin Owens did the same thing. You kind of pass the torch to that next person. So, obviously, they think Nakamura is going to be a big deal, and I truly think he will be. Now, speaking of big deal, so now we move on to the main event, Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor. Now, walking into this show, I'm a big Joe fan. I've been watching Joe since Ring of Honor. You know, I've been watching Joe, which, by the way, later on in WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, later on in NXT that night, they actually referenced Samoa Joe's record-breaking Ring of Honor title reign, which was almost 2 years. They actually acknowledged the fact that Austin Aries was the one that broke that record, which I was fucking mind-blown that they even mentioned that in the show, but they did. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, you know, you can see WWE not being afraid anymore to kind of acknowledge. With Daniel Bryan's documentary and CM Punk's documentary, you know, they actually acknowledge Ring of Honor, so I do think that's pretty neat. If you're a fanboy or fangirl out there, or, you know, for pro wrestling, I know that you have to feel the same way. That was really awesome. But anyway, on to the match with Joe and Finn Balor. Joe came out, you know, the way his mannerisms were, he kind of looked like old school Ring of Honor Samoa Joe in terms of how he was acting, interacting with the fans. It was really awesome to see. Finn Balor came out kind of borrowing a little bit from Mr. Chainsaw Charlie Terry Funk himself. He come out with a freaking chainsaw, which is a little different, you know, addition to his normal gimmick, his normal entrance, which is awesome. You know, probably the best entrance in the business today. But, you know, that's not what's important. What's important is what goes on in between those ropes. And I can tell you, this is what is the biggest bullshit of the entire weekend happened in this match. And I'm going to get to this. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes, as I only want this review for NXT TakeOver and WrestleMania to be about 20 minutes maybe. So, I just want to give it to you hard and rough, real quick, and just let you know what my thoughts are on this match specifically in WrestleMania. But I got to spend a couple minutes on Joe and Balor because I'm getting to a point here. WWE fans are sick and tired of this PG bullshit. Okay, we're sick and tired of the WWE acting like that if any blood shows up on a wrestler, all of a sudden it becomes this thing that's going to scar children. Let me tell you, in this match, within the first 30 seconds, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor butt heads. And in this, Samoa Joe gets lacerated. I mean, he's wearing the crimson mask. And, if you know anything about wrestling feuds, some of the greatest feuds usually always end in blood. Whether you go back to Sergeant Slaughter and Pat Patterson, or, there's been many a match where Hulk Hogan, and Sergeant Slaughter were fighting. There was blood involved. Ric Flair and Sting and, all these, Stone Cold and The Rock. I mean, Foley, Taker, shit. I mean, all these feuds, there was always blood involved because when the stakes get high and the feud gets to a certain point, rage comes with it, anger comes with it, and blood sometimes in the business is a way to draw money. Samoa Joe gets busted open. It looks like he snaps for a brief second, kayfabe style. And but here's the shitty part. The WWE starts sending out trainers, and they start sending out guys to basically salve Joe's wound in the middle of the fucking match, right? And the fans are starting to chant FPG, except they're not saying F, they're saying the whole damn word. They're saying fuck PG. Fuck PG to the point when the audio starts getting messed with, But, that's what the fans are feeling. We're all like, F this PG bullshit, man. Give me my wrestling back. I don't, quit making wrestling for kids, because in case you haven't noticed anymore, the 80s wrestling was popular and children were there, okay? And wrestling was huge. The boom was big. But as the early 90s kicked in, into the mid-90s, wrestling was dead. Pro wrestling was done. I mean, the viewership was nothing. It's because Vince McMahon single-handedly turned the business into a damn cartoon, right? And fans got tired of it. That's why ECW got so popular, because they brought a more mature 18 to 35-year-old product for that demographic. Raw eventually, and WCW too, but more Raw, went to that Attitude Era, and then all of a sudden Rock, Austin, all these characters came out, and that became the biggest boom period in the history of the business. Now, Vince is trying to turn his back on that. Now when blood shows up on screen, they make a big damn deal out of it. When somebody gets color, I mean, they've gotten color lately. Some guys have gotten cut open legitimately. Some guys like Roman Reigns use blood capsules. But the point is, blood is needed sometimes in a feud to show how aggressive this is. In the middle of the match, fans start chanting FPG, FPG, and to be honest with you, with the trainers coming in and out of this match, Joe and Balor's match should have been an explosive match, but it really killed the mood of the match. It really did. I mean, there was one point when Finn Balor literally told, the ref to basically get out, or the trainer, get out, let him bleed. Let him bleed, and the fans start chanting, let Joe bleed, let Joe bleed. And it was like, damn, man, they took this match and just whizzed on it. They pissed all on the match because of PG. And I'm telling you, if they do not eventually break this mold, I mean, it doesn't have to be, rated R or M for mature, but there has to be that level where you just know that you have to let this thing run its course, because if they'd have let Joe bleed during that match and really, really bleed, and then use that as a way to just keep drawing that anger and aggression out of Joe, like where he will fight you to the death, bloodied. That would have brought a whole new perspective to that feud, but they didn't do it, and because of that, look what happened. The match really kind of got the air taken out of it. Eventually, Finn Balor went over on Joe, which I wasn't expecting. I really expected Joe to win this match and Finn to get called up to the main roster, maybe start his Balor or Bullet Club up there. But the bottom line is Joe didn't make it, and, that kind of takes me on to, WrestleMania 32. NXT, if I'm going to rate it I'd probably rate it a 4 out of 5. I thought the whole show was pretty good. Hell, maybe even 4.5 out of 5. It was an excellent pay-per-view. I definitely encourage you to go watch it. But if you can only watch one match of the night, definitely watch Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, because they really lit the damn building on fire. It was absolutely amazing. Now, when it comes to amazing, let's go on to WrestleMania 32. What are my initial thoughts about it? It was actually good. I didn't think it was going to be that good because the only main events that were there, Dean and Brock Lesnar. Obviously Brock Lesnar, the most popular wrestler in the company. I thought that match would be good. Contrasting styles and such, I thought it would be a pretty decent match, and it was. And then you had Taker and Shane McMahon. Didn't exactly go the way I planned, but it was still a damn good match. And but Roman Reigns and Triple H is the match is kind of built around, and I really didn't care for Roman Reigns, and I still to this day do not care for Roman Reigns because I'm tired of him being force fed down our throats, so heavily. But we'll get to the match. It started out WrestleMania. I'm not going to go match to match. I just want to kind of point out, just as a fan, some of the things that really stuck out to me. So the first thing I'm going to talk about happened a little bit into the show. We had the return of three particular performers. You actually had Steve Austin, you had Shawn Michaels, and you had Mick Foley all return to take on the League of Nations after they beat New Day in their match. I can tell you that was a huge moment because Steve Austin has kind of refused to get in the ring and do anything for quite some time. So that was a huge, huge thing for them to be able to all come out together and kick their ass. They kicked the League of Nations ass from pillar to post, man. They all got the stunner. They all got the sweet chin music and Sacco. I mean, it was really an awesome thing to see. But the cool thing about it was at the very end of it, you'll have to check it out. I'm not going to spoil it. But there's something that happens with New Day with all of them where they're all trying to get them to interact and do the booty dance and all that, and it's really, really exciting. It's really fun to watch. And if you're a fan of the business, you're going to know that goofiness sometimes, even with characters as serious as a Stone Cold, really is a plus. But it ends the way you think it would end, but it was fun to get there. But I think that the match that really that kind of started the whole thing tonight was Kevin Owens and this whole fucking schmoz Intercontinental title match. You had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who deserved to be there. You had, Zack Ryder, who didn't. You had Dolph Ziggler, who kind of did. Then you had Sin Cara, and you had Miz, and who else was it? Stardust. It was kind of a throwaway match to a degree because, in my personal opinion, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have such damn good matches. They need their third match because I think they only had two in NXT, but they need that next match, that next feud. And I think if they'd have done the kind of promo packages that they did for their matches in NXT and go back and show them how basically they were almost the equivalent of sperm. They've known each other so long. It reminded me of when Beavis and Butthead did the flashback, how long they knew each other. And they're basically, they were sperm with their heads on the sperm head, that's how long they've been doing this thing together, so that feud's natural. And I think they could have got more heat out of it that way. But there was so many amazing things that happened in that match, cool spots. There was a couple of points in there where I thought Kevin Owens was going to die. I mean, there were some spots. Again, I want you to watch. I don't want to spoil too much, but, Zack Ryder ended up pulling out the match. I was really pissed about that because I don't think Zack Ryder deserves it. I think Zack Ryder has been it almost shows you, like, what the title means. If you're going to let Zack Ryder win it, shit, why not let Sin Cara win it? If you're going to let Sin Cara win it, then hell, man, why don't you let Bo Dallas win it? Because Kevin Owens, I think when he has the title, it means something because Kevin's matches, the quality of his matches are great. Kevin is the best heel in the company, if not in the business right now. And I don't mean the kind of heel like Triple H and Stephanie, who we heel on them because we fucking hate seeing them every week. Kevin's not that guy. Kevin's an old school heel where he's really good in the ring. He seems to always walk out with the title most of the time, but he talks such good trash. It's almost, he's so good at being bad that you kind of like him. And people know he can go in the ring. And I think that's what really made me mad is Zack Ryder is good. He's entertaining, but that character's so damn outdated. Does anybody even watch Jersey Shore anymore? But that character's so outdated that it makes him outdated. And putting a beard on him doesn't change anything. And Dolph Ziggler, he's had more turns on a racetrack, to quote Big Show. I don't take him seriously because he looks effeminate. You know, he doesn't look like a guy that could beat anybody up. You know, he looks like a weenie to me. Dolph does. And, you know, Dolph's steam is gone. Like, he will never get it back. He will never be as hot as he was in fall of 2014 when Sting made his appearance. And, you know, it was that Survivor Series when, you know, basically Dolph Ziggler took out the Authority all by himself. If there was ever a chance for them to make something of that poor guy, it would have been that time. But no, pops. They deflated it because that's what WWE's good at. For every one guy they get over, they fuck 10 guys out of their spot. And Dolph Ziggler happens to be that one guy they fucked so many times, man. They should have drilled oil by now. But, you know, it's just one of those things that really bothers me that Zack Ryder, of all people, walks out with this title when it should have clearly been Kevin Owens who had the most heat in that match, him or Sami Zayn. Now, granted, Sami Zayn about killed Kevin Owens with the half dragon, half tiger suplex onto a ladder. I mean, my God, it looked like Kevin Owens' neck got broke. I mean, clearly that didn't happen, thank God, but it was a nasty bump nonetheless, which led to Zack Ryder being able to take that title. So, you know, really kind of disappointing all in all, and I think R2-D2 would even agree. Yeah, see, R2 would even agree that it was a shitty way to end that great match. But, you know, again, I'm not going to go over every single match of the night. You know, I think that what I'm going to skip to are the four main matches to me, which was first starting off with the triple threat match with Becky, Charlotte, and Sasha. Now, I've been predicting for a long time, and not just myself, but I've heard guys like Kevin Castle and Don Tony talk about it on their show, where, you know, they recommended that they would get rid of the Divas title now since wrestling for women's being taken more seriously. And, you know, pitch that damn Divas title, put it in the trash, do it a la Medusa, and actually start promoting the Women's Championship. And that's exactly what they did tonight. Lita opened up the door and said the winner of this match will be the new Women's Champion. And it was a hell of a match, man. It was a match that you knew these girls were going to have. You know, Sasha obviously was super over, but I'm going to tell you what, Becky Lynch in this match, you know, she really owned it. I mean, she owned the spot. But her, Charlotte, Sasha, they all did amazing. They all got their spots in, but they looked natural. You know, and they all showed you what these women can do in a match. Now, I know, you know, you got JBL and all these guys talking, but JBL literally said he felt like this is probably the best time for women's wrestling in history. I kind of disagree. You know, if you look back and, you know, 10, 15 years ago when you had Lita and Trish Stratus and you know, all these other girls that were kind of a part of that, Mickie James and so on and so forth. Those girls were amazing. And Jackie, of course, you know, Hall of Famer, you know, current Hall of Famer. All those girls were really good in their own way. And I think to kind of discredit them by saying these girls now are so much better, I don't know. All I know is Trish Stratus and Lita main event of Monday Night Raw. Have we seen any of these girls do that? No. Maybe that day's coming, though. They keep having matches like this. I was hoping Sasha Banks, the boss, would go over, especially since during her entrance, Snoop Dogg, the newest this year Hall of Famer in that celebrity wing for WWE, he comes out rapping and brings her down to the ring. So I kind of felt for sure that, you know, she would win, but she didn't. So I'm sure there's big plans in store this next year for Sasha Banks, just like there was big plans from 2015 to 2016 for Roman Reigns, which obviously transpired tonight too. But that match was damn good. Definitely recommend you watch it. Now, moving on to another damn good match was Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose. I walked into this match thinking that, you know, Brock Lesnar obviously should win any match he's in. But I thought that maybe they would have Brock beat the hell out of Dean, where Dean kept getting up and getting up and getting up, and he did. But the one thing that I thought might happen is that, you know, Dean might pull that surprise victory out of his butt, you know. And then maybe Brock would show him a little bit of respect and then maybe beat the hell out of him post-match. But it didn't happen that way. Dean took a beating from Brock. I think Brock gave him 12 to 13 suplexes. And, you know, Brock kept taking weapons that Dean was trying to use, and he'd break them and throw them because clearly Brock is a weapon in and of himself, right? But, you know, Brock did eventually go over in that match. You know, he went over with an F5. Excuse me while I drink from the Starbucks cup of power. But yeah, you know, Brock eventually went over with an F5 on what looked like the 100 damn chairs that were thrown in the ring by Dean Ambrose, a la Terry Funk. But, you know, it was a good match. And I think Dean Ambrose is definitely a player. You know, I think this coming year you'll see more of Dean in that top spot. But speaking of top spot, so now we're going to talk about Shane McMahon and Undertaker, the match that I had an idea. I'm going to tell you what I thought was going to happen in this match. I thought that the stipulation, because I'm still kind of on the edge, because I really didn't keep up with Raw this past 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks, because I watch NXT more than Raw, to be honest with you. And I'm sure I'm not the only damn person. I prefer entertaining sport versus sports entertainment. Now, I thought that Shane had to win the match to take control of Raw, but then I thought Vince just said he had to be in a match, not necessarily win a match. But I figured that if he had to win the match, then what would happen was eventually he would take a bump off the cage. I felt he would, and he did. But it wasn't something Taker induced. It was something he did to himself in the form of an elbow drop, which the shit went terribly wrong, but we'll get to that later. Vince, or Shane, I thought would get a beating from Taker. Vince would somehow come out, talk trash, and eventually, when Shane was at a point when he was lifeless, I thought Taker would go for a tombstone and maybe pull Shane over on himself and make the ref count 3, flip Vince McMahon off, and stick it to Vince McMahon one last time in his final WrestleMania. I thought that would have been a neat way for Raw to have a Shane take control, but then also have the Undertaker kind of stick it to Vince that last chance at WrestleMania. And he'd go out on his back like, champions generally do. When you're a big star like that, usually you go out losing. It's just the way of things. But the match was really good. Shane took an ass whipping, and Shane is naturally talented in ring, very charismatic, knows how to sell, and the match was good, man. Shane got power. He got freaking choke slammed on stairs, but the epic match was how basically it ended was Shane and Taker. Shane was choking out the Undertaker on the outside with a sleeper hold. Taker threw himself through a table. With Shane on his back and really hurt them both, but eventually Shane got the Undertaker prone, laying on top of a table. Shane ascended the Hell in a Cell and he dove off with an elbow drop, by which Undertaker fucking moved out of the way on him, and Shane just went crashing, dude. He crashed and burned, and it looked nasty. Taker eventually took Shane in the ring and Tombstone Power drove him and pinned him. But you could definitely tell there was a respect level there. And Shane was carted out on his back, but not before he gave the crowd a thumbs up and patted his chest just to let them know that he loves them. And, it was a really, really good match. It really was. Shane has always been super talented, just as talented as his father in many ways, but certainly more athletic. And Shane definitely looks a hell of a lot better than he did back in the late 90s and early 2000s. He's definitely in shape now, a lot more in shape than he ever was before, a lot more cut. He did a damn good job. I would like to see Shane wrestle a little bit more from time to time. Because Shane always is that fearless person. But do you agree, R2? I think even R2 agrees that Shane needs to wrestle more. So, the match was really good. Shane, like I said, he ended up going down to the tombstone as they all generally do, except Brock Lesnar. But it was definitely a good match, a very good match. Now, lastly, I got to talk about the main event. Probably the least over main event since Triple H versus Booker T so many years ago. This match, and of course, even that one wasn't really a main event. I think it was, I can't remember who main evented that particular WrestleMania, but I think it was Brock and Kurt Angle was the one that rented the main event of that WrestleMania. But, this is definitely the most least over candidate to win the World Championship that we've ever had in WWE at a WrestleMania. Roman Reigns. And this is something I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on. I want everybody to know what my perspective as a wrestling fan since 1985, when I was 5 years old and started watching Hulkamania rip his shirt off. I'm now almost 36 years old and have watched wrestling for over 30 years. And I'm here to tell you that there's one reason and one reason only that the fans, I'll say two reasons why the fans piss on Roman Reigns every single night he goes out there. Number one, the fans know, if you're an old school fan, the way it used to be. Go back and look at how many champions, WWE champions, won the Intercontinental Championship. Just go back and look. I know that, Batista didn't. I know that Hulk Hogan didn't. I know that the Ultimate Warrior didn't, okay? So I know there are some that have not, okay? I know the Undertaker didn't. But there's so damn many that did. Macho Man Randy Savage happens to be one of them. Shawn Michaels happens to be one of them. Bret Hart happens to be one of them. Steve Austin happens to be one of them. The Rock happens to be one of them. Triple H happens to be one of them. Need I go on any further? Hell, man, John Cena's first title was not the fucking WWE title, damn it. It was the US title. So the point is, this idea of paying your dues in the business in front of the WWE fans, not the NXT fans, because whenever somebody talks about paying dues, well, hell, Roman Reigns has been up there for 3 years, 4 years, you know, but the fans don't think he's paid his dues enough yet. They feel like he feels entitled. You know, that's the number one thing. The fans, like me, feel like they're putting him in this spot because he's a nice-looking guy, good build, good look. And he is athletic. You know, he's got some charisma, but his mic skills are the shits, man. But that's why they shouldn't even have him talking to begin with. He should just come out and kick someone's ass like Goldberg used to do back in the day. But, you know, the point is the fans have seen ever since the Shield broke up, he was the one they were going to shove down our throat. Even though I clearly thought Rollins was the top performer out of all of them. Some other people thought Ambrose was, but nobody thought Roman was. And he's the one all of a sudden getting the push. It's ridiculous. It's freaking ridiculous. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Roman Reigns, in my personal opinion, his repertoire sucks ass, okay? He just doesn't do enough. And again, I'm not saying you got to be like, 5-star wrestler. You don't have to be Eddie Guerrero. You don't have to be Macho Man Randy Savage. You don't have to be Ricky Steamboat. Hell, Daniel Bryan or any of those guys. You can be a big dude like Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan and make big money and draw big money. But the number one thing is that Roman Reigns at this point feels like the WWE is going to put him over no matter what, and we don't want to see it. I want to see somebody like a Kevin Owens. I want to see somebody like Dean Ambrose. I want to see somebody like, that's more well-rounded, okay? I want to see somebody like Sami Zayn. Shit, give me anybody at this point. Hell, I'd take John Cena back. And to know me, man, that's crazy talk right there. Hell, man, I was voting for Triple H tonight, for God's sake, if that tells you anything. You know what pisses me off, man? What pisses me off to no end is the fact that if they really, really cared about the fans, if they really listened to that bullshit they say about the fans are always right, we always go with what the fans say, that's horse shit. Because if you really were going with what the fans say, Roman Reigns would have been heel a year ago. But no, they're not doing that. But if they would even take their own advice and follow history, his family member, was it cousin, The Rock? The Rock was the same way, man. He started in WWE. His first match was Survivor Series 96. They kind of half booed him, half cheered him at Madison Square Garden. Within a month and a half, man, he already had the Intercontinental title. People were chanting, "Die, Rocky, die." They wanted his ass, they wanted him hung on a tree. They wanted him stoned to death. Man, they wanted him locked in a box, never to be seen again. The fans didn't want him. Rock got pissed. He joined the Nation of Domination, started talking trash. He got good on the mic, and he was decent in the ring. And guess what? He got over. He got over, and then eventually fans started loving him. That's what Roman's going to have to do. He's not going to be able to be this John Cena cookie-cutter babyface. It's not going to work. Number one, he don't look it. He doesn't look that way. He looks like a badass. His character, the way he looks, he should be coming out, putting people through tables, spearing them through barricades. He shouldn't be talking. He like tonight, when the fans were booing him, he should have put a couple of middle fingers up. He should have screamed out, "I don't need you. Those that boo me, I don't need you." Do something. But the fans, the WWE just are reluctant to do so for whatever reason. It's really shocking. So clearly you can tell how I'm talking. You know how it went over. Roman Reigns eventually went over to Triple H. He won the title. God bless him, man. I'm glad that he finally was able to win that gold. But this is the third damn title he's won in a year. Bret Hart only won 5 WWE titles, and that shit drives me insane. The fact that current wrestling, the titles mean so little anymore for the most part, that you can get a wrestler like Roman Reigns who's won the title 3 times. 3 times in a year. But legends win it, maybe, 5 or 6 times. But yet their title reigns means something because they actually had top-notch performers and they held the title more than a cup of coffee. So it's like, oh my God, you're making it worse on this guy, all in all. But the bottom line is, was the match good, Ryan? Yes, it was a decent match. Triple H doesn't have many bad matches. Triple H's matches are smashes. The only thing that drives me nuts in the match was the Superman punch. it just, he hit it like 6 times in this match, like the only match, it's like the only move he had, you know. But I mean, all in all, the match was decent. The pay-per-view was good. But you know what? There's something I kind of forgot to mention. And I think this is probably the most intriguing part of the night, was The Rock came out. Rock came out and talked about how the WWE won this attendance record, okay? That was awesome. They did over 101,000 people in there. I wonder how many of those 101,000 people paid, but that's for another conversation for another day. But here's the point. He comes out, Wyatt family comes out. Bray, Rowan, and Braun Strowman come out. Bray starts cutting a promo on Rock, telling him this, that. You know, he's people's champ. He's going to devour him, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're a fake. You're a phony, Rock. You're exactly the kind of people we hate. You know what The Rock does? The Rock puts Bray over in front of the fans, says, Bray, you got talent and charisma. I know who you are. I've seen you from day one. You got all the tools, man. And the fans start cheering because I've said from day one Bray Wyatt could be a world heavyweight champion. But they won't give him the shot, man. He's the guy they shit on every match, man. But listen, Rock puts him over in the match. My mind was blown, man, because eventually what happened was what? The Rock said, enough of this talking. Rock pulled his shirt off, pulled his pants off, and he had his tights on underneath. And it became an impromptu match between him and Rowan, which lasted 6 seconds because the minute the bell rung, the damn bell rung again. Because the Rock hit Rowan with a rock bottom. And then all of a sudden, the Wyatt family start getting ready to gang up on the Rock. And boom, Mr. John Cena comes out. First time back in months. All right, it was actually good to see John because it's kind of weird having WrestleMania without John Cena. But, yeah, you know, John Cena and The Rock came out clearing house, man. And it was actually a pretty cool experience. But you could definitely see how Bray Wyatt, they're setting the table up for a Rock and Bray Wyatt feud, which that to me is very intriguing. Now, there is a way that I thought WrestleMania was going to end. And I'm going to go ahead and share this before we end this particular episode of basically Wrestling Gurus minus my partner, Mr. Jay Riggs, who will be on our next episode, I'm sure, very, very soon. So keep a lookout for that. But something happened. Something I thought was going to happen didn't. And this is the thing. I think the WWE understands that Roman Reigns is probably not going to get over as a babyface no matter how hard they try. Damn, Triple H has tried his ass off for 2 weeks, 2 months to try to get this guy over. And they just can't get him over as a babyface with the larger audience, with the hardcore fans. I thought he was going to win the title. Rock would come out, congratulate him. He'd fucking Superman punch the Rock or spear the Rock and tell him, I don't need you. I didn't need the family name to get in the business. My talent was enough, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be the dick that we want him to be so we actually feel good about booing him. Didn't happen that way. Maybe that will happen. But nonetheless, I like the program that Bray Wyatt and The Rock seem to be getting into. I think that'll probably lead to a SummerSlam match. But with all that being said, I hope that everybody, the Fanboy Frenzy Army out there, enjoyed this particular little mini review. We just want to take a few minutes to let everybody know that you can check us out and join the Fanboy Frenzy Army at facebook.com/Fanboy Frenzy. You can download our free podcasts at mixcloud.com/Fanboy Frenzy. You can check us out on Twitter.com/Fanboy Frenzy. Hell, man, you can even check us out on Twitch.tv.com/Fanboy Frenzy Army and check out our streams. Right now, we've been streaming a game called, what the hell was that game called? Anyway, it's what I call the 8-bit Expendables. It's called Broforce. It's a hell of a game. You know, maybe you can check out one of our streams that'll be going on here momentarily. But I want to let everybody know that all in all, if I'm giving star counts from 1 out of 5, I think NXT Takeover was probably a 4.5 out of 5. And honestly, I think WrestleMania was probably a 4.5 out of 5. It was really, really good. Hell of a lot better than I thought it was, all in all. And I think that, WWE's heading in the right direction with a lot of this younger talent. I just hope they use them right. Until next time, everyone, it was so good to see you. And be on the lookout for a weekly Wrestling Gurus from myself and Jay Riggs coming up very soon, as Fanboy Frenzy headquarters has been under remodel over the past couple weeks. So we haven't had as much content, but we're starting to put more out now. And also be on the lookout for Fan Kid Frenzy for more family-friendly content that you can let your children watch and listen to as well without worrying about hearing specific words, etc., etc. Thanks again, brothers and sisters out there in the Fanboy Frenzy Army. And just like John Cena, until next time, you can't